Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I am your host, Mystery Red, and this is my disclaimer. This beta read in Concord is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. Today we're looking at a piece of original fiction. We are back with No Name Shattered by Dontrike. We're looking at chapter 2, and I believe this is my third read. Completed read 2. Next read will be read 3. So this is my third read of chapter 2. I have a playlist for all of my reads for Dontrike's works. I actually have a playlist for all of my authors that I've read more than one chapter for. If you're new here, welcome. Please hit like and subscribe, and please comment on my reads. You can follow any of my readers, my authors, and I'm happy to do a read for you. First chapters are free. Does it have to be a public read? No, I also do private reads. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, we are going to start my timer and dive right in here. Oh, it's set on 3 minutes. That is not going to work. We need 30. There we go. Okay, and here we go. This is my spot where I left off. None. And here we go. I'm going to make sure I'm in suggesting before we get too invested here, and I'm not. So good thing I checked that. Okay. It didn't take long for all but bone and juices to be left on the plate. I have to do this next year, maybe even twice the size, she happily thought while biting into the apple. The creaking sound once more echoed within the small house. She stopped and looked up at the roof, noticing a large crack in one of the ceiling's wooden beams just before it caved in right in front of her in a cascade of wood. Okay, so this sentence seems a little bit long, like we have some extra detail in there that we don't need. Sometimes when we have too much detail, it actually detracts from a nice clean sentence that'll move our story forward. So let's just take a look at it. She stopped and looked at the roof, noticing a large crack in one of the ceiling's wooden beams just before it caved in. I kind of feel like all of this is like extra, and I would suggest omitting it. I'm a little surprised. Maybe I needed to back down. Maybe I needed to back up a little bit to get more context. I feel like I had my spot highlighted, so I just feel like I kind of need to back up a little bit because it didn't take long for all but bone and juices to be left on the plate. So I take it we're eating. I have to do this next year, maybe even twice the size. So our character is enjoying themselves. I feel like I probably would know who this was if I backed up. Please bear with me as I'm reading for multiple readers, and sometimes I get lost between the week and the reads, and I forget the details. Who are we with? Backing up. Okay, we don't yet know their name. I remember this now. We were just meeting a new character. All right, now I'm back with. All right, so they're eating. And they're thinking they need to do this again. She thought while biting into the apple. The creaking sound once more echoed within the small house. All right, so this is a little house, all right? And I'm guessing she's sitting at her table. Before long, the top blackened. Perfect, she exclaimed. Looking to do anything while waiting, she opened an upper cupboard, pulling out another plate. Okay, so she's making her food. Taking the rod in hand, she guided it. Yeah, so she's making her food. She's sitting down. She's eating it. All right, so she's enjoying her food. I don't know what meal of the day it is that she's enjoying. She's celebrating her birthmas, whatever that is. And okay, so she hears the sound. Is the sound, it says it's echoed once more, so it's echoed again. Where did we hear the sound first? Because of course, I'm jumping right in here, so I'm like, I'm missing the build-up for the level of drama that happens in the last sentence. And so I'm inclined to look back and find out where the noise began, and if we had an escalation that would lead to such a dramatic event, because we're talking about a beam caving in, and that's pretty dramatic. So before it comes to that, there should be a build, and I'm wondering if that is here. So it prompts me to look back, and I can't remember because it's been a week and 5 other authors since I read this. So I'm going to pause for a second because I don't want to detract from the minutes for me to look and see if get some more context without taking away from the reader time. So let me just pause my timer, and I'm going to pause the video for a second. Okay, I found it. So there's multiple mentions of sound here, and there was, yeah, okay, so this I think is the first mentioning it, and then it's mentioned again here. Where did I just find it? Yep, here it is, yet again creaking. Okay, so we're building up, and then we cook our food and we sit down to eat it, and then a house freaking collapses on us. Now, I want to say this. If it's going to be something like a beam falling, I don't recall seeing back here, I see mention of it creaking. And are they all saying creak? Yeah, so here's creak. And so they're here, but I don't think there's a build. And I'm also thinking if it's going to fall, maybe there's a tremble before it collapses. And why am I harping on this? Because I'm trying to get you a realistic build out of the event, because that's a pretty dramatic event when part of the, something's collapsing. That's kind of big. So to build up to it, do you have mention of it? Yes, you do. But is the mention repetitive? And surrounding the mention, is there an escalation in the severity of the ultimate event? Okay, so it creaks, and you're like, house is settling, and you keep doing what you're doing, and then maybe it creaks louder, or maybe it moans, maybe there's a little tremble with it, and you're like, oh, and you give it a little bit more thought, and then finally maybe it lets out like a wail, like a fracturing sound, or wood fibers snapping, something to the sort that is much more dramatic, and the house gives a shake, and then it collapses. So if you see what I'm doing there, I'm giving you an escalation of the events to give you the reaction that you're going to want at the point where this happens. What I'm going to do is highlight this and just say musings in video, and you can go back and you can look, and you can kind of just process what I'm saying and see what you think about it. And that kind of marks the spot where I started having that thought. And then we're going to keep going. She screamed and jumped, falling back in the chair, the house filled with a cloud of dust and sunlight from the skylight. Okay, so you got an echo, a sound echo there. I don't really like it. I think it's detracting. So we screamed, we jumped, we fell out of a chair. The house fills with a cloud of dust and skylight. I feel like you could probably have 2 sentences, and because it's action, they can be shorter and tighter, and you're going to get more of the reaction you're wanting. Let me see what I come up with for a second. Okay, now, first, I'm suggesting kind of like a whole rewording of the sentence. And this is absolutely not me telling you to use what I've written. I'm just trying to give you an example of how you can tighten it up. Her heart pounding, which is a visceral response, okay? So the visceral response is you tapping into the five senses during a dramatic event. Her heart pounding, she flailed, tumbling from her chair as the house filled with dust, okay? You don't need to describe the sunlight coming in through the skylight just yet, because you can start that here in your next line, because now we know what's happened, and now we're going to move on to what happens after this event, okay? So that's my suggestion on that, and that is my reasoning behind it. We're tapping into a sense. We have action, and then we have consequence, all right? And then we have what they visually see. She looked up at the hole in disbelief, specks of dust dancing in the light as they settled to the floor. I'm suggesting making that dancing, making it active. Oh, you have to be kidding. This house is brand new. Her frustration quickly turned to astonishment the moment she saw a hand and legs sticking out from the rubble. Moving quickly. All right, so what is another, in lieu of moving quickly, what is one verb that will do the job of these two? Scrambling. Oh, but wait, if we go further into the sentence, we have crawled. So I would suggest picking one action verb rather than having 3. Scrambling over to the pile she found a naked man. She found a naked man, or how does she feel about this? I mean, to her shock, she found a naked man. I mean, something, to her complete disbelief, she found a naked man. Something, I'm kind of wondering what, I want to keep in her headspace. We have an action scene, so we have short and tight things that are happening. We're trying to keep it active and keep it intense. And I'm just kind of, but in the middle of it, you can tuck little words here and there that will keep us in her headspace. Scanning him for injuries, she could see his rather toned body. Okay, so immediately she's going to start. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's read through the sentence and see what we come up with. Scanning him for injuries, she could see his rather toned body, even if he could still lose 20 pounds. A light hair color hidden beneath the coating of dust. I guess, yeah, if I was helping unbury someone, I might notice them as I'm first laying eyes on them. I might look them over. You know, first of all, she's kind of checking in for injuries. So yeah, I kind of get this. All right, we're going to keep going. Although it is long. I don't know. 2 commas is not too bad. Scanning him for injuries. I could see. I feel like this is distancing. She noticed his rather toned body. Although he could stand to lose 20 pounds. You could put a period here and start a new sentence. Although he could stand to lose 20 pounds. And he could stand to lose 20 pounds. He had a light hair color. Is there one word? He had a mop of blonde hair hidden beneath a coating of dust. Something to that effect. So see how I just kind of like broke it into 3 sentences? There's a chance for you to do that there and to trim some extra words out. And in doing so, you're going to cut your word count. So that I know that that's one of our goals. And so I'm always trying to keep an eye out for that. I don't want to use pink because that's my mark a spot. I'm just going to highlight it in yellow and say musings in video. Musings in video. And we'll keep going. Looking further downward, she caught sight of his nether regions. Oh my goodness, she blushed. Hello, are you okay? She hoped he'd react. Come on, Natalie, of course he's not, she said to herself, reaching for him. Nice way of working her name in there. Placing 2 fingers on his neck, she breathed a sigh of relief. A pulse. Feeling a pulse? He had a pulse, or a pulse. You have options. That's great. That you're not, the man grabbed her arm, his blue eyes wide. Okay, I wouldn't say with terror, that's telling. You've already shown it with his eyes being wide. He gasped. He's coming. Okay, so he's getting ready to speak. I almost want this to start here, this to come up here, and this to be a capital. Because now I feel like we're kind of slipping into, not his point of view, but it's kind of his turn, okay? The man grabbed her arm, his blue eyes wide. And I would omit this, and I'd say, he's coming. You have to help me, he said, desperately gripping her arm tighter. He said. Okay, so what is a way that he can say, in lieu of said desperately, what is something else he could do? You could just show, we know it's him talking because we've started. Our mind is with him. It's his turn, okay? The man grabbed her arm, his blue eyes wide. So we know it's him. We don't necessarily need a dialogue tag when we're sure we know who's speaking. He's coming. You have to help me. He grasped her arm tighter, or he gripped. There we go. It's suggesting gripped as well. Oh my God. Why is it blocking out the suggestion? That's just bizarre. I'm going to suggest crossing that out. And I'm going to put my gripped over here and then cross so that it's a little bit easier to see. One other option that you have that I want you to see is the man grabbed her arm, his blue eyes wide. He's coming, he gasped. You have to help me, period. Okay, and you can end it there. So then you trim a couple of words here and there. So you have 2 options, or you have more, you have whatever you want to do, but those are 2 options I could suggest. We're going to keep going. Startled, she jumped in her skin. Okay, so if she's startled, I'm kind of seeing her jerk, so I don't know that you need to tell me this. Startled by the suddenness of his waking words. It's all right. What do you need? Okay, so here's the thing. Instead of telling me she asked, trying to stay calm, what I would like you to do is have an internal thought. What does she think about this situation? Who is this dude? Where did he come from? What is he talking about? Is he a threat to me? You know, she could have a number of different thoughts. I don't know what they are. She's your character. You know her story. So suggest you, in lieu of telling me that she's trying to stay calm, I want you to maybe have an internal thought somewhere. I'm suggesting you omit this because it seems redundant to the startling. If she's startled, that to me is another way of saying that she jumped. Okay, but that leaves this sentence needing to be reworked a little bit. I'm going to highlight it and say musings in video, and then you can kind of see what my thoughts were surrounding it and see if that doesn't help you figure out what to do with it. And then my afterthoughts, were that I'm kind of wondering, in lieu of telling me that she's trying to stay calm, either show me by her taking a breath and maybe recentering herself, but an internal thought with that, I need to be calm. Panicking is not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to get me any information. Take a breath, center myself. It's all right. What do you need? So see what I just did there is you've shown it, okay, by kind of a little bit of rearranging and shifting it over to an internal thought with her, as she kind of, maybe her mind is a little bit irrational, and then maybe she reels it back in, and then she takes usually when I'm trying to refocus myself, I'll take a breath. And some people think I'm heaving a sigh or something. I'm in dismay and don't want to be there, but really it's me taking a deliberate breath to be recentered in the moment. And so by putting that in writing, have her thoughts go haywire a little bit, and then have her be like talking herself back down, and you don't need but like one of this and one of that. You don't want like a whole paragraph of it, okay? And then having her, okay, nope, I gotta chill. It's not gonna help. Is it all right? It's all right. What do you need? So then you show it instead of telling it. And so that is my thoughts surrounding that. His eyes darted left and right, looking around as frantically as his breathing was. Okay. His eyes darted left and right. So that's showing me panic. He's coming, he gasped. Now, if you didn't do the he gasped up there, you could do it here, okay? So you could go with my other suggestion up here, and then down here, you can show me his ragged breathing without telling me, kind of working it in between the dialogue. He's coming, he gasped. He'll cage me if he finds me, please. See there, you just kind of put in his breathing somewhere else. His eyes darted left and right, so you're showing the panic. He's coming, he gasped. He'll cage me if he finds me, please. She reached for his face. We're not going to have reached out. Just omit that little word right there. She reached for his face, forcing him to look straight at her. Hey. It's okay. No one else is here. No, he pushed himself upward with his other hand. You don't get it. A scream of pain cut off his plea, causing him to let go of her. Okay, so I'm guessing, at first I thought it might be his pain, but now I don't know, is it his pain? A scream of pain makes me wonder whose pain it is. If it's his pain, just have him scream. Just say that he screamed so that the reader is very clear that it's him screaming. Otherwise, my mind immediately went to, is there some third party here that we don't know yet? But if this is, and I haven't kept reading to find out, I'm going to. But my immediate reader thought was, is it him, or is there a third party at play? Okay. No, he pushed himself up with his other hand. You don't get it. I would maybe have his face crumple and then have him let out a scream. Okay. You don't have to tell me that he released her, I guess. I don't know if that's necessary. Just, I'm kind of rolling. I kind of didn't really think of him as still holding on to her, but keep in mind that I'm also looking at other things about the actual sentences So I might not be grasping all the details in my first pass. Does that make sense? So I'm going to say musings and video here to mark the spot for you. Hey, what's wrong? There was no cut or bruise, but where she was kneeling was a dark, viscous red liquid. She fell to her knees, bending down. Okay, she's already on her knees if she's kneeling. I would say omit that for it being redundant. She bent down to remove any wood and shingles she could, throwing everything behind her. Bent. I guess we need bent. She bent. I kind of already thought she was, if she's kneeling, I don't know. I don't want to overthink that. Sometimes I feel like we get too caught up in the actual motion, every single movement of our character, and we don't have to. We can have them being natural with subtle movements here and there, although I'm kind of seeing her now grabbing pieces and kind of like trying to get them away from him. So I have that visual, but I don't, if she was kneeling already, I kind of see her. I almost think if I'm moving large chunks, I kind of want to be on my feet and bending over. So think about that however you visualize it. I just want to point out that fell to her knees and that she's kneeling already is redundant. So you have to choose. If she's kneeling, she also can't bend down because she's already on her knees. She's already in a down position. So I'm going to point that out for you to figure that part out yourself. And then we're going to keep going. I do have the visual of her kind of throwing things, unburying this guy is kind of what I've got. But if I'm visualizing that, she's on her feet and bent over. Okay, that's how I see it. I'm either that or she's not going to get as much leverage on debris as she would, I think, being on her feet as she would already being on her knees. Finding the largest plank beneath him, she pulled hard and he screamed once more. Oh gosh, sorry, she panicked, placing her hands underneath the bleeding man and lifted. She panicked, placing her hands underneath the bleeding man and lifted. He howled. All right, so in pain is telling. If he's howling, you're showing me his pain. She panicked, placing her hands beneath the bleeding man. I don't know if I'd have to lift it. It's distracting me. Underneath or beneath the bleeding man, period. He howled. Her hands, felt the warm sensation of blood as she lifted him. Okay, let's see. The plank came along with him as his body turned. With one last push, he flipped onto his stomach. I think that's one word. She gasped. All right, so her hands, instead of feeling, felt is one of the words that I usually look close at to the surrounding sentence because I don't want it to be telling. In some cases, it's your feeling as in an emotion. And so there's different circumstances, and that's one of the benefits of having a video read is as things come along, we see different circumstances with our use of words that we can study and have examples to surround into helping us make the choice. Here, her hands felt the warmth sensation, feels a little bit telling to me. There's a lot of ways you could reword this. Warm, wet liquid. She quickly realized, I put through an adverb in there. Warm liquid. Warm liquid seeped over her fingers or coated her palms. I'm trying to make it more showing so I'm trying to get a visual of it, the sensation of it. Warm, sticky liquid coated her palms. She pulled one out, immediately seeing the blood or something to that effect. You get the idea. Try to avoid the adverb part. But you get the idea. I'm trying to give you the more visceral response, the visceral sensation in lieu of telling. I'm trying to get you to show it so that I'm just fooling with it just a little bit. I'm not being very committed to fooling around with it. I'm just kind of throwing out some ideas to kind of give you the gist of it. Let's see. I'm going to highlight felt the and say musings and videos so you can kind of get what my ramblings are surrounding that. Okay, let's find out what happened to him. A jagged piece of wood punctured his lower back. Ew, 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 ew. I'm thinking splinters, not just one, but like this giant piece of wood, and then all the little tiny splinters that go with that. Ew, cringing. Splinters are kind of a cringe thing for me. I have a story, but I won't go into it now. A jagged piece of wood punctured his lower back, one as thick as her wrist. Ew. Another plank stuck to him, its nails piercing his skin as red trails flowed from each. Ew. Okay, was this man crucified? I mean, was he beat with like a board that had nails in it, or is it just? I'm just saying, this probably happened when he fell through the roof, but I'm just like, what has this dude been through? Where did he come from? What is happening here? All right, so those are my reader thoughts in the middle of all this. Please help, he pleaded. I'll go get help, don't worry. She rushed out the door, looking at the open field. The children were still playing. Her black blood-splattered skirt billowed in the breeze as she ran to them. Okay, I am quickly going to, this is super petty. You can completely ignore it, but I'm going to observe it for the sake of reading out loud as if I was reading to myself. I like silently. I don't think this would bother me at all, but it was a bit of a tongue twister. Her black blood-splattered skirt billowed in the breeze as she ran to them. The children looked curious. Okay, looked is distancing, so I'm going to highlight that. Curious. The children looked curious and then terrified as Natalie came up to them, covered in blood. Approached. Came up to is approached. Okay. And curious faces turned to terror as Natalie approached them, covered in blood. There you go. So I messed with it just a little bit. Also, musings and video of the sentence. Okay, and let's see. Miss Natalie, you're bleeding, the young seraph girl said, a ball of water in her hand. Morgan, I need you and your friends, Natalie gasped. Okay, so I'm going to point this out. I believe we may have some consistent gasping going on. So I'm going to color it in purple and take a second. Try to figure out what I want to do here. I'm going to highlight this in pink so I don't lose my spot. And then I'm going to go back a little bit. Where did we begin today? We started like right here. I don't know how many gasps are going to be ahead of this, but from where we started today, I feel like we've had multiple gasps. So let's just put them in there and find out how many we have. 2 of 4. So it's telling me that we have 4. He gasped. Why would it show me number 2 if I started there? Was there a first one prior to it? Why would it jump straight to 2? That seems strange, doesn't it? All right, let's go to the next one. There's another one and another one in kind of a short proximity. So what I'm going to do, I don't know where we're going to highlight them in purple just for you to be able to quickly find them. And it's, yeah, so we need to find different words. What I would suggest, this is so weird. It's so weird for me to say this. Go onto Pinterest and search for like word lists or something, or go to your search engine and be like words that mean the same thing as gasped and see what it comes up with. Just so you don't have to, if something doesn't pop into your mind quickly and you find yourself spending a lot of time just trying to figure out on the right word to swap out with another word, use your thesaurus, do a word search list. It's okay to have a couple windows open or have a little notepad to the side. I kind of have all these tools available to me in close proximity along with snacks, to be very honest, when I'm writing. So let's keep going. Okay. The kids sprinted like greased lightning down the road. When Natalie was sure that's where they were headed, she ran back to her house and into one of the closed rooms. Inside, she rushed for a dresser. Okay, I'm gonna have my reader thoughts as I'm reading this paragraph. The kids sprinted like greased lightning down the road. When Natalie was sure that's where they were headed, they're headed down the road, but where are they going? To get a doctor. Morgan, I need you and your friends, Natalie gasped, to run and get a doctor. Someone's hurt in my house. Run as fast as you can. Go. The kids sprinted like greased lightning down the road. When Natalie was sure that's where they were headed, she ran back to her house and into one of the closed rooms. Okay, so what my reader brain is like, okay, so the dude is like part of her house kind of collapsed with the dude that fell through the ceiling. Okay, so he's just like laying there in a heap, and she's run back in her house and down to one of the other rooms. I don't know. No, it works. I'm just my reader. There's nothing wrong with it. My reader brain is like is visualizing this, and it's just like, this dude fell through her roof. Okay, if people start falling through my roof, I don't know what I'm gonna do in the moment. I really don't. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna help the person, but I'm also gonna be like, where did you come from, my friend? Did you fall out of a plane? Obviously, we're in a different world here, but I'm just saying. Okay, let me see if I can get myself focused. Inside, she rushed for a dresser, looking for anything that might help stop the bleeding. She pulled out an identical black skirt to the one she wore before running back to him. You came back. He looked at her out of the corner of his eye, his nose pressed against the rubble. I'm curious, what color are those eyes? It's good, if they're pretty, she might notice them. And she might have an internal thought about it. There could be an opportunity there. I'm just going to note it. And you could just delete that comment, but I'm just noting it because this is the spot where it happened, and it might help you find it should you decide to take advantage of that little opportunity right there. All right, it's telling me I'm done for the day, but I'm going to highlight this one, and I'm going to read this paragraph right here. All right. This had taken Natalie by surprise. You come back. You came back. He looked at her at the corner of his eye, his nose pressed against the rubble. This had taken Natalie by surprise, wondering how anyone would think they wouldn't help them. Okay, so this is a telling instead of having a direct thought, which as we're in her headspace, I feel like you could do the direct thought, and I would really like that. This had taken Natalie by surprise. Why wouldn't I help him? Everyone should help. Why would someone not help someone who's fallen through a roof? Whatever the direct thought in her head is, write that. Okay. But I wanted a direct thought. So I want to end this sentence right here. And then have the next one be a direct thought that means the same thing. And it can be its own sentence as well. Okay. And then, of course I would. Try to relax as best you can. The doctor should be here soon. I'm going to clean what I can until they get here. She went to her wash basin and tapped a small crystal. A light blue glow and water emanated from it. She brought the clean skirt to the water, the dark cloth absorbing the liquid. Tapping the crystal once more, the water and light ceased. Nice way of showing her use of I like how you show all of them using the crystals, and they work in different ways and they do different things. And part of me wonders, a reader thought is, I'm wondering if it's specific to the type of angel that they are, what their abilities with the crystal are, or if it's the crystal itself, do certain colored crystals do certain things. It doesn't really mention the color of the actual crystal itself. So it kind of lends me to think either the crystals do certain things themselves, or the person using the crystals, it does different things depending on the person using them. And I'm kind of wondering that in my mind as we go on. All right, that is where I'm going to stop today at 33 minutes in. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time on Mystery Red Reads.